Hello, my name is Veronica Bloomfield, and I'm so happy to be with you today to talk about the importance of literacy, language, and learning with our earliest readers. This video is geared for our public library employees to be able to inspire a love of reading and a love of books with our preschool age students. Preschool age children need to hear, recognize, and make sounds. Hearing and making sounds is a foundation for literacy skills. What can you do to help preschool students hear and make sounds is incorporate that into the read alouds you might do with them. Before you start to read a book, you might be sitting with them on the carpet area and you might do a call and response sound making session. For example, you might gather them together and say, "Children, I'm going to make some sounds. You repeat after me." And you might say something like, "Ba, ba, 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 wee," and then have them echo back, "Ba, ba, 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 wee." See if they can imitate you saying, "Clack, clack, BB, wow." Clack, clack, BB, wow. Have them practice making even those nonsense sounds. We want them to be able to hear a sound that you are making and then echo it back to you. That's called phonemic awareness, where they're aware that our languages have sounds, and then they're going to be able to transfer that to when you read to me, you make sounds that come into words, and then I'm able to understand the story that you are reading to me. Another way that preschoolers can become familiar with sounds, listening and making sounds, are through songs and chants and rhymes. Reading nursery rhymes, reading books that have a repetitive phrase in them that the preschoolers can say with you is also helpful. And incorporating rhythm into the sounds you make can also be helpful. So when you are with your preschool students and you're going to engage in a read aloud with them, try to make it interactive in that they can repeat part of what you're saying back to you, and they can also start to incorporate movement. This leads me into our second point about what preschool age students need. They need movement. They need to be able to use their fine motor skills and gross motor skills. And if you can relate that to a book that you are reading, it will help them greatly. If you can think of emotion, if you're reading a book about the ocean and you move your hand like this, and while they're sitting on the carpet, they're able to move their bodies like this, or maybe they stand up and they start to move like seaweed in the ocean. That's allowing them to have that sensory experience of movement in their own personal space. And it will also help them connect to what they're reading and have that comprehension, not only in their brain, but also in their body. So preschool age students need to hear and make sounds, and they need to engage in movement. Some activities that help preschool age students develop their fine motor skills are counting beans, sorting items into different piles, doing finger painting, even using finger puppets that they can wiggle around with their fingers as they tell a story helps develop those fine motor muscles. Other activities that help them develop their gross motor skills could be dancing with you, could be acting out the motion of different animals or characters in a book. Even having a soft ball that you roll back and forth on the carpet or playing catch can help them develop their movement skills. And these are all activities that can be done in a small place and can also be done quietly if you're inside the library, or if we're allowed to use our outdoor voices. Preschool students love to do that too. Our preschool age students already come to us excited to learn about and explore the world around them. And it's our job as adults who care about them to provide them access and opportunities for those explorations. Some of the topics that preschool students are typically interested in are farms, animals, babies, colors, different forms of transportation, weather. They like to talk about themselves and learn about other children their same age. They're also interested in food, bugs, insects, and feelings. So any books that you read or any activities that you do that relate to those topics will be of interest to our preschool students and also help them learn more and connect to the world around them. Preschool students love, appreciate, and need choice in their lives. Some preschool students may feel comfortable answering an open ended question such as, "What do you like?" or "What kind of book would you like to read today?" Other preschool students might not be as comfortable answering an open ended question, and that's when the use of visual aids can be really helpful with our preschool students. So I might even use a toy or a prop like this to say, "Today, would you like to read a book about a dinosaur, a car, or nature?" And then they could point to which of the toys they're interested in, and that would help you find a book that relates to their interest. That's more of a structured choice where we're giving them three choices, but they're still able to exercise their autonomy and pick something that is meaningful to them. And we want preschool students to feel powerful in their own ability to make choices and assert their likes and their dislikes in kind and respectful ways with others. Preschool age children benefit from repetition. You will notice a lot of books that are geared for this age group will have the same phrase repeated over and over again. So, for example, in this book by Eric Carle, brown bear, what do you see?" is the phrase that's repeated on every page. And the students learn that rhythm and they can repeat it with you. And that repetition creates a sense of familiarity for the students. Another book, Dear Zoo, the phrase that's repeated over and over again in this book is, "So they sent me a," and the students can say that every time. "So they sent me a," just like they say, brown bear, what do you see?" That repetition creates that familiarity and they can begin to see themselves as readers. Even if they can't read, I'm sure you've seen young children pick up a book and they can imitate what the adult was saying. Even if they don't even say all the words, they might say, "Baba, ba 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 ba." And they're practicing that intonation of reading with expression, which is what we want them to be able to do as they develop as readers. Another example of repetition is a student might have a favorite book and they might pick this book out every week for 6 weeks. And that's their favorite book and they love it. And I want to encourage you to encourage them. It's wonderful to have a favorite book. And if they get attached to that book and they want to check it out more than once or read it every time they come to the library, that's okay. It's not hindering their development as a reader to read the same book over and over again. It is actually promoting their development as a reader because the more familiar they become with the book, the more confident they may become in talking about it or in pretend reading it to you or someone else they know and care about. So repetition creates a sense of familiarity and builds confidence with our youngest readers. Preschool students learn very well with themes. So, an example of a theme would be if we were reading a book about the ocean and then we made some blue, green finger paint pictures of the ocean. And then we talked about vocabulary that has to do with the ocean. And then we did some physical movements like the plants or animals that live in the ocean. Having all of those different activities around the same idea or around the same theme helps them make connections between the words, the pictures, the movements, the artwork, and they actually become experts on that theme. We want to encourage our preschool age children to be good listeners, to learn information, and to hear the stories we have to tell. But we also want them to have the opportunity to become storytellers and experts in their own regard. So after a theme is over, we want them to be able to express to other people what they've learned about the ocean, what they know about the movements. Even before the theme is over, at the end of each activity, they can talk to a partner or talk to you, say out loud, have a turn to express what is something they learned today. What was their favorite part about the activity or book that they read today? What's a question that they might have? Having opportunities for students to talk about what they're doing and talk about what they're learning also builds those foundational literacy skills. Along with having preschoolers talk about what they've learned, what they like, and what their questions might be, we want to expose young readers to vocabulary. Many years ago, an author named Isabel Beck wrote a book called Bringing Words to Life. And in this book, she talked about how very young children can learn pretty complex vocabulary, even though they may not know how to read yet. And that's part of their oral language development. So, for example, if you have a child that comes to you and you know that they ask a lot of questions or they're very curious, and you say to them, "You are so inquisitive," and you use that word with them over and over again, inquisitive. Here's my inquisitive friend. You are so inquisitive. Over time, they can say, I'm inquisitive. I like to ask questions. I like to know what's going on. If you have a student who likes to talk a lot and you say, oh, you are so loquacious. I love talking to loquacious people. Loquacious people love words and language and communication. And over time, they start to say that to their friend who's talking. You are so loquacious. They don't know how to read that word. They may not even know all the names of their letters. But when they are hearing you say those vocabulary words to them, and the more familiar they become with them, they will then begin to use them and have that as part of their lexicon of expression. All those fun words that describe people, places, things, experiences go into their language toolbox, and then they'll be able to use it in a variety of different situations. Speaking of vocabulary, preschool age children love to talk. And I'm sure you've had the experience of holding up a book you want to read. Let's say we're going to read about the very hungry caterpillar. And they may start saying, I saw a caterpillar. I saw a roly poly. I have a dog. I like popsicles. And that's because they want to share. And that's appropriate for them to want to share. Some of the comments might be related to the topic and some might not. So it's helpful for them if you introduce the topic or the story you're going to read and then just give a few seconds, a few minutes for them to start chiming in, asking their questions, making their observations. And then once the story is over, if you let them know, when I'm done reading, we're going to have another time where anyone who wants to share will have an opportunity. That may also help you be able to get through the book without a lot of interruptions, but also let them know you're honoring them and you're honoring that they will have a time at the beginning and the end to express themselves. Everyone in our world needs to be able to express themselves, how they're feeling in a way that is respectful of other people. And we can begin our preschool students on that journey by giving them the vocabulary and the opportunity to express themselves. So if we start out by saying, I'd like to hear how everyone is feeling today, and everyone can start their sentence with, I feel, and give some examples. You might even have a book about feelings that shows different facial expressions or different colors that relate to feelings. And the students can say, I feel tired, I feel happy, I feel sad, I feel excited, I feel sleepy. They're still generating language using that sentence stem of I feel. You can also start them off with I like or I want or something I want to know is. And then they get to finish that sentence. Hopefully, it might relate to a book that you're reading, but even if it doesn't, you're still engaging them with language and they're getting to practice what it's like to have dialogue with someone. I'm going to say how I feel and you say how you feel. I'm going to say something I like and you're going to say something you like. And now we're getting to know each other and we're building that sense of community and camaraderie. Our very young children love to do that. They love to have friends. They want to feel a sense of belonging. And the younger that we can encourage them and teach them the tools to create that sense of friendship, of kindness, and belonging, the better off they'll be, the better off our world will be when we have adults who know how to say how they feel, who listen to others, and who celebrate those relationships and that sense of community. Our preschool age readers need exposure to what we call concepts of print. So preschool age students benefit from being oriented to the world of books. This is the front cover, this is the back cover, this is the spine. Going over the names of the author. The author is the person that writes the words and comes up with the idea. The illustrator is the person that draws the picture. Sometimes one person does both of those things. Making sure that students know how to open the book and that in English and many other languages, we read from left to right, There are some languages in the world that read from right to left. Also having books available that are bilingual, whether it's on the same page or two different pages, it affirms that being bilingual and multilingual is an asset and is something to celebrate and encourage in the world. We want to make sure also that preschool students see themselves and their families, their loved ones, the communities where they live in the books that they read. So representation matters, and being able to see who we are and who we love in books that we read are important. So for example, I just have a few books up here. This one is a great book called Black Elk Speaks. This one is called Under the Lemon Moon. We have a folktale here from South Africa. Even though these are not preschool age books or board books, they're still appropriate to do what we would call a picture walk with students. And you can modify the story, not read all of the words, but just show the pictures and talk about what's happening in the pictures so the students are able to see themselves in the stories that you are reading. Preschool students are naturally curious, loving, and open-minded. Let's do everything that we can to keep them that way. So we want to continue to encourage their curiosity. And we also want to talk to them about concepts or values such as kindness, fairness, inclusion. All of those words, even though they may not be able to spell them or read them, will make sense to preschool students. Young students can understand very easily and are actually very passionate about issues of fairness, issues of kindness, issues of taking turns, issues of sharing, issues of caring. We want to talk about those concepts with them, recognize when they are embodying those concepts, and also read books that relate and reinforce those concepts. Preschool students need to feel safe. Young children need to know that when they're at the library, when they are with adults who care about them, that they are safe. That safety can be physical safety. They know that their physical and personal space is respected. They know that they're expected to respect and honor the boundaries and physical space of other people. But also part of that safety comes through adults who care about them, telling them and showing them that you are okay just the way you are. Mr. Rogers is famous on his PBS show for saying, "I like you just the way you are." Very young children are exposed to technology today. And in some cases, that can be a great benefit and teach them skills and engage them. And in other ways, it can start them at a very young age, comparing themselves, what they look like, where they live, where they go, what they do, how they dress, to other people. And having those comparisons can sometimes make young children and older children and adults not feel good about who they are. And you, as an adult in their life who's part of the community, who can reinforce to them, "I like you just the way you are. And you don't have to be any different than who you are or what you are to belong here, to be valued here, and to be part of what we do." So that safety, that feeling of safety that preschool students need, can be created by you as library staff members, verbalizing and affirming to them. You might be the only voice in their day that says that. "I like you just the way you are, and I'm glad that you're here." And I encourage you to make those statements when you see the children in the library. Even when they're entering the area, if you were to say to them, "I'm so glad you're here. I've been waiting for you. I've been hoping to see you." Statements like that can really lift their spirits and make them feel important, which they are. The last point I wanted to make is what preschool children need is you. You, our librarians and library staff, are important people in their lives. How many other places can they go where there is an adult who's not part of their family or not part of their school, who are working to create an environment and an experience that is just for them? The books that you read, the crafts that you do, the conversations that you have make such a difference. And it's important for preschool students to know from a young age, the library is a safe place for me. It's a resource for information, for knowledge, for my growth, for my development. I have friends there. And also, a librarian is a person in my neighborhood, is a person in my community who I can trust, who I can talk to, and who can help me learn and grow. And so I thank you, library staff, for creating those experiences and for being important people in our youngest readers' lives. Thank you.